Good morning. All right, here we go. Back in the little garage studio, ready to sew it up. Let's see. I was going to see this yesterday. I know this is definitely not accurate, probably, but if I was just curious how much force, if I use this digital scale, if I could somehow, if it would somehow be accurate, if get a little gauge of how much pressure I'm putting on the tension when I pull the thread. Let's see. Yeah, maybe like 2 kgs. 2 kgs of pressure. I think this is 1 kg. Let's see how much this is. 1.278. See, I would say probably around 2 to 2.5 kgs of pressure that I'm putting on the thread tension. Of course, that's not very scientific, but because I'm pulling, but I'm sort of feeling the same pressure when I'm pressing on that. Anyway, how much does a normal sewing machine, how much pressure does a normal sewing machine pressure have? Let's see if my watch can answer that. No, I'm not even going to try it. My watch only has Google Assistant, doesn't have Gemini yet. When it gets Gemini, I think it will actually be able to do that, which would be pretty cool. I'm excited for that to happen one day. In the meantime, let's get on my tablet here. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is, let's see, it is 9:20 a.m. in northern Portugal. And I've had a nice slow morning. I got up around 6 a.m., made some coffee. I've been looking at some videos on YouTube. I've been working on some videos on my phone that I shot while camping. And yeah, feeling very good. Ready to start today. I mean, I could get most of it sewn. Let's see. Again, 9:20. I stopped last night at 8 p.m. So that would be 11 hours if I get going. Let's see here. Okay, let's see. Let's ask. Hey, let me think what I'm thinking here. How much pressure or for the tension does a normal sewing machine, like not a normal one, but one that works with technical fabrics like VX21 or X50 Tactical, what sort of tension pressure do these sewing machines use? Let's see. Let's see if it can get that. I'm using voice typing with this keyboard, Futo keyboard. That's an excellent question, and it gets to the heart of what makes sewing with technical fabrics a bit different from working with standard textiles. Based on your description of using an awl to make bags, so that's the term tension pressure isn't a standard quantifiable measure like PSI or kilograms. Instead, it refers to a machine's internal resistance on the thread, which is controlled by a dial instead of tension disc. The goal is to achieve a balanced stitch where the top and bobbin threads, so that's what they call it. The top would be the opposite thread, and the bobbin thread would be the one on this side of the fabric. The bobbin threads meet perfectly in the middle of the fabric layers, creating a strong seam. Yeah, that's okay. So that's exactly what I'm doing. So this came up because I was just watching one of the videos, and I was talking about how when I make a stitch and then I'm pulling the threads, so this would be the top thread and this would be the bobbin thread. When I'm pulling that tight, after a lot of time doing this, thousands and thousands and thousands of stitches, I can feel when the knot, what does it say? The goal is to achieve a balanced stitch where the top and bottom threads meet perfectly in the middle of the fabric. Yeah, so the lock I can feel it pop into place right in between the fabric layers. Okay, so that's exactly for technical fabrics like VX21, and with the Dyneema thread used, the tension settings on the sewing machine are generally higher than for standard fabrics. A normal home machine might have a dial from 0 to 9. Let's see, for heavy duty materials you would likely be in the higher end of that range. Okay, so but what is the tension? In summary, there's no single pressure number. Okay. So it is also sort of a guess what they're doing. So you would basically dial it in for heavy duty materials like VX21 and X50 TACTICAL. You would likely be on a higher end of that range, or even need an industrial machine with a robust tension system. So basically, a machine doesn't feel exactly, so you have to get the tension properly. You have to get it correct, because when you're doing it, when you're using a sewing machine, you're not feeling the fabric, you're not feeling the tension, you're not feeling the thread, you're not feeling the needle, you're not feeling anything. So you can't actually feel it. So the machine has to be set properly to get it in the proper place. So with this, the way I'm doing it, I actually feel every bit of it, and you can see by my fingers, it creates calluses along the edges of my fingers. And in fact, I made this little finger holder here that I put on the middle finger. Put it here. If it starts to get a little sore, I put this here. So when I'm holding the thread and it's wrapped around my finger, when I pull it, it's putting the pressure on this piece of, it's actually I think this is some 500D ripstop with some tape over it. So it's putting the pressure on this. So, because over time you're doing a lot of sewing. Even yesterday at the end, I was getting it was starting to hurt a little, not hurt, but I was starting to get a little bit more sensitive on my fingers. And this helps. So when I start to get sensitive, I'll use this. So that's the tension. All right, so here we go. I love that. I really love that. I get the idea, everything about the sewing machine speed. I am thinking that as I progress in the future, the inside seams like these that I'm doing, I probably would, if I was doing, let's say I wanted to, if I was trying to make 5 bags a month, doing all of these inside seams on a machine, I think would be okay. I think that would be fine. But then again, it's sort of, it blurs the line between me wanting to do it. I guess my passion can evolve, and I can incorporate the machine to do these longer stitches that take a lot of time, and then I can focus my hand sewing on the stitches that people see, or in the locations that are either difficult to get with the machine, or I would like to do it by hand because I would like to do it in a certain stitch because it's visible, or because I want it to be stronger in a certain area, or there's a lot more fabric, something like that. I would incorporate both. I don't want to give this up. Sitting on a machine, I feel like, in a way, it's like being in the car. I made a comment yesterday that I haven't been in a car now in like 11 days. And I'm walking, and I'm on the bicycle, and I'm bare feet. There's something about not being in a car. That being said, I love technology. I love technology. I like to combine, the technology that I use with being outside, being on the bicycle, being camping, doing all these things. But, yeah. Like, for example, being on a treadmill versus going out in the woods and running on a trail. I mean, which one? Oh, well, if you run on the treadmill, you can run uphill the whole time, or you can set it on a certain speed. You can really be specific about your running distance and your running form, and if it's hot or cold outside, it doesn't matter. You can run on the treadmill. There's these benefits to it. But the analog of going out and running in the trails, I mean, this is just, I don't know, the analog of, if somebody has this bag, I mean, Elsa's going to have this bag. And for her, the idea of going to a store or buying a bag online, I would think, doesn't have the same everyday feeling that one that has been handmade by someone specifically with so much attention. Sort of, there's more of a pride there, I think. Like going on if you go by yourself, fly to Kathmandu, figure everything out that you need, get on the bus, get eat the local food, being in the culture, and then taking the long journey by bus through the villages, through the mountains, staying along the way in the little villages, and then eventually hiking up to the base camps, and then eventually hiking up to the top of the mountain. This is different than having an organized tour. It just is. There's more. There's a story there. There's some character there. There's some adventure there. There's some non-perfect situations there that you don't. There's some surprises there. There's and there's the knowing that you figured it out, that you did it, that you made it, that that you didn't cut any corners, basically. Yeah, I like that. I mean, that's how I always do it, basically. And with this, I didn't plan on sort of making bags and having this passion like this grow, but here we are. Here we are. And as you can see, it is not easy. I mean, it isn't easy. It would be much easier to just go online and you can buy a black bag that is similar as it is a bag with a decently similar shape, but it's going to be generic. It is going to be generic. No matter which company you buy it from, it is going to be, I mean, generic is a strong word for any, like for one of these mystery ranch or one of these companies that are more unique. I mean, Mystery Ranch I think got bought by Yeti actually, so that's kind of out. Um, Look, when you get big, the focus is on quantity. Very, very rare is it stick to quality. And the quality might be there in that it's consistent, but it lacks a certain character, I think. I think the character is what sort of goes out the door when they say, the person sold out. Usually it's the character that sort of, the soul is what they're worried about evaporating from the business, from the company, from the product. It's the soul, like the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into actually making a product becomes sort of an assembly line, and then and we're all using products like that. I have a Samsung phone, a Samsung tablet, this keyboard. Virtually everything we use is made like that. So it's not to say that those things are bad. It's just to say that, let's don't get rid of all the handmade stuff, the analog things that we do. Let's continue doing them. Having all of your conversations through text, maybe face to face would be good sometimes. Having all of your conversations through a video, maybe have some conversations in real life. Yeah. I did change the needle yesterday, so this is a new microtext. These needles are incredible. It's a Microtex 7010. This is a tiny, tiny, tiny needle. Very, very, very small. This would be something that you would use on like really thin fabrics. If you were using a sewing machine. You can go smaller than this, but this is about as small as they get. For example, the awl that I use, it comes with needles like this. So you can see in comparison. How can I do this? Let's see. So see the needle in the, there we go. So the needle in my fingers is the one that came with it. Looks like we got a delivery. Huge. Let's see about this delivery. All right, let's keep going. There's a delivery. Okay, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the needle sizes. I'm trying to show this, which was very difficult, but big needle. This is what this is for. I mean, this is meant for repairing things that you wouldn't be able to repair using a sewing machine. Normal, usually something that's that's already set up, like a sail on a sailboat that maybe has a tear or is coming loose, and you can use this to repair it. Whereas a sewing machine would be way more difficult to take it down and take it in, and you'd have to be able to position it in the certain way to make it actually fit and be able to be used in a sewing machine. Now, of course, there are some industrial sewing machines that are set up in a way that can, sew in a way that is non-traditional. They have like a certain You know, it's not set up where you have like a very small space to slide the fabric under. You know, they're set up in different ways. This is, the sewing with this is sort of liberating. You know, there really are no rules to follow. You can kind of do it however you want, which I mean, for me, that appeals to me. I think maybe I mentioned that in another video, but I'm not really keen on a lot of you know, rules. For lack of a better way to say it, you know, I'm fine with rules, but for example, running, I love running, but if somebody, and I ran track and field in college, and I did have a coach, and we ran a lot, and it was very organized, and it was, you know, it is what it was, and it put me through college. But now I would not want somebody to tell me, hey, you need to run on this day, and you need to run this much, and you need to do, I don't want to hear it. I want to go out and I want to just feel it and run as I feel. And sewing is like the same way. If somebody was coming in here and saying, you know, we need you to do this in this specific way, and I want you to make this specific thing, I mean, perhaps I could find it to be a challenge, and maybe I would want to do it. But I do like sort of the creative freedom of thinking something and being able to make it happen all by my own power in my own time. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. Have I been talking enough? My God. Talking. Cafe. Okay, I guess I'll leave it there. I'm about to get started. The next thing I'm going to sew, let's see if you can see, I went ahead and added the straps. So these straps, these are the side straps that connect to the hardware. So this is going to go on like this. Let's see. Like that. Something like that. It's going to go, what I like to do is the webbing, I like to attach it at the bottom. So right now I've got it attached at the bottom with the clips, and once I sew this and once I get everything else sewn up, what I'll do is I'll create tension on this, and then I'll sew it to the top part. So there's tension from the bottom to the top. So when you're pulling this, it's not just pulling the top of the bag, it's pulling the whole bag together. I like that little detail that I like to do. So these are in place. The sides here are ready to sew. This side is also ready. Let's see. Oh yeah, because that's the right. I was just thinking, this side is open. Wait a minute, did I do that wrong? Yeah, I did. No. Interesting. So I just realized that I made this pocket facing inside and this pocket facing outside. So let me think about that. Do I want one of each? One with the fabric showing and one with the fabric open? I guess that would be a question for Elsa, actually. That's kind of funny because on the outside of the bag it's the same. It'll be the X50 TACTICAL on the outside. But then on the inside of the bag, this side would be black, while this side would be the bare fabric. I think I should change it. So I'm gonna do that, which means I'm gonna have to take all of this. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, I can't change it. I did already sew this in. So that'll be a little unique thing. So on the inside of the bag, she's gonna have this, and then she'll have this side will be like this. All right, well, that's cool. That's unique. That's a happy accident. Not to mention I don't have to change it. Okay, so yeah, because it's already sewn in. All right, so there you go. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew the bottom. So I kind of like to work from the back. I always do the bottom back seam first, and then I work the side seams. Both of these side seams are done, and then I like to go, I work from the back bottom forward, and so eventually the ending will be the very front top. Then once you flip it out, then you have all the trimmings, all the details of the edges of the panels, the front. I won't finish these until I flip it out. I'll finish all the trimmings at the end, which is something you can do with an awl that you can't do with a sewing machine. You would not sew like this on a sewing machine. You would have to do it differently, because you have to, with a sewing machine, you have to do it in a certain order, because you only have a certain amount of space that you can put fabric through. Otherwise, it's too awkward. Like, I couldn't sew this in a sewing machine once it's completed, because I couldn't fit this in the sewing machine. But with this, I can do it. So I do like that. Now, again, this is just how I learned how to do this. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, or I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying this is my process. This is how I do it. With a sewing machine, it would be very different. Very, very different. Even someone else doing hand sewing would probably be different. I would be very curious to know if anybody else is making bags like this by hand using something like this. I'd be very curious. I know that people make leather goods, wallets and bags with an awl, because using an awl with leather goods makes more sense, because leather is so much thicker, and it's actually, it's like an old tradition to make leather goods out of an awl, with an awl. You make the hole, and then you put usually you're using like a wax, like a much thicker, stronger wax thread, and they do like a cowboy stitch, and it's a handmade process, leather goods. They do use sewing machines, of course, but it's much more common. There are a few companies that actually say that they use these to make their leather goods. I think there's one called All Snap, which is quite a funny name. But this kind of fabric, you can sew on a sewing machine. So there's really no reason exactly, especially if you want to do quantity, to use one of these. If you have any sort of time constraints, this is not what you will use. So anyway, all right, so I'm going to get started. I'm going to leave it there. The next I'm going to sew is probably going to be this edge. So here we go.